Netflix streamers can now watch the Ukrainian television show that President Volodymyr Zelensky starred in before he began his political career in another manifestation of Zelensky fever, which Washington Post columnist Kathleen Parker wrote about in her latest op-ed titled Volodymyr Zelensky, the Modern Warrior Artist. In it, she heaps over the Ukrainian president, writing, quote, Zelensky has gone a long way towards redefining manhood in a time of gender muddle and animus towards men. He is the modern-day warrior artist, political and presidential, fearless and faithful, humble yet cocky, beautiful in his ordinariness. And every man in his trademark T-shirt and half-zip, Zelensky is David against Goliath, shouting to the world that he's not afraid.
In a March 9th piece for Rolling Stone, pop culture writer E.J. Dixon criticized what Twitter has already dubbed Zelensky thirst, writing, quote, Zelensky thirst is making liberals look like absolute clowns, maybe lay off the horny commentary. What's that, bonk, go to horny jail? Have you seen those memes? Do they not remember how it turned out with Michael Avenatti or Andrew Cuomo?
Joining us now to weigh in is Katie Halper. She's host of the Katie Halper Show and co-host of the Useful Idiots podcast. Welcome back, Katie.
Let's see if Katie can contain her thirst for Zelensky. I'm not sure.
Do you have a crush on him? Are you like at that point where you're like, this guy?
No, I don't know. Unlike Kathleen Parker and others, I'm not playing MASH with Zelensky.
I think
maybe
yeah.
What is that? Mansion, apartment, shack, house? It's a game that people don't know.
Yes, I remember doing that.
Game that you play, you play to tell you, and you say different guys' names, boys' names, or girls' names, or whatever. Yeah, but that is kind of what I imagine.
So is this like liberal thirst just a part of our world that just has to move from one place to another?
One person to another.
Or is it a new phenomenon? Like, where was it before Avenatti? Well, I guess Barack Obama and his abs or whatever.
I'm sure there was somebody else. It's like the hero, whoever the hero is.
People not having enough actual sex.
I mean, I do think that maybe there is a crush on Jon Stewart, and Zelensky is kind of maybe like the Ukrainian Jon Stewart in some ways, right? Like kind of short, Jewish comedian, charming.
I think it's more that he's like
a Jon Stewart.
Handsome.
If Jon Stewart were like in a war-torn.
Well, right.
Doing selfies.
That's demanding a no-fly zone.
This is a little different.
That's not so sexy about Zelensky. I gotta say, maybe it's me and my type. My type is not a guy who demands no-fly zones. That doesn't turn me on. That's not my kink.
I think it's totally fair for him to be asking for that. I mean, he's at war with the country. He's doing. I think he should be asking for everything.
He's a sympathetic. I think he's in many ways very sympathetic. I just think it's a little dangerous to be crushing on someone whose demand, understandable or not, if met, would lead to World War III. So
I agree.
Take off our Zelensky goggles for those of us who are wearing them.
It's a little different than the Avenatti or Cuomo or where just like there was nothing. What's heroic about like reading a screen projector well or something? Whereas he's in a war. He has refused to leave a country. People are trying to kill him. It's a little bit more.
It was because he was taking down Trump.
Right.
So it was a warrior.
Right.
It's this
Avenatti went to prison for his beliefs.
So he's now a martyr of some kind? Yeah. No, Zelensky, I don't think that he's this comedian that people like. I don't think that's the aspect about him that people are, finding attractive about him. It's that he is out there. I mean, he's like, being a battle warrior, and he's like, I'm going to take on the Russians.
He didn't flee, unlike all of our other client states. He didn't just flee when they came for him, which is it was like, oh wow, he's going to fight.
And I think it's totally fair for him to ask for everything. It's up to us to say no to that request.
Yes,
and I would understand if we were like fantasizing or making a man hot and sexy if he was not the president of a country at war and he was calling for a no-fly zone. Then I totally agree with you. Then that guy, it's like that guy's trying to get us into like all the people in the press briefing room at the White House. If it was somebody there that's calling for this.
They have a crush on no-fly zones.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what their deal is. They really need to work out their sexual issues because they're like dry. Can I say this on TV? like dry humping no-fly zones, if you will.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I don't know what is going on with that. That is
I
a
admire
weird fetish
Zelensky,
that
though.
we're
I
seeing.
mean, I don't necessarily think the guy's, I think his country's being pummeled. I think the outcome's not going to be any different. So it's better to try to spare as much life and destruction as possible.
As opposed to fund a proxy war that uses the Ukrainians and Russians as cannon fodder. Right. But yes,
I do
it's
see the appeal.
understandable that he's asking. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's. I wish we could like talk about, not you guys obviously, but I wish that people could be writing op-eds about the agreement that's being worked on between Russia and Ukraine. Maybe we have to turn that into some kind of BuzzFeed quiz. To make people like into it or something. But
which world peace are you?
Or what if we use this?
Exactly, yeah.
What if we use this celebration of Zelensky as a way of saying, okay, if Zelensky cuts this deal with Russia, whether or not the U.S. thinks it's a good deal or not, if Zelensky and the Ukrainians are for it and they think this will bring peace and dignity back to their country, then we need to support it. Period.
Yeah.
And use Zelensky's celebrity and his pop and his appeal to try to shoehorn that in.
Nah, it's better to just fantasize. That's what.
No, that's good. I think, and then we can call people who stand in the way C blockers. Can I say that? I didn't say the word.
We can say all these things. We just can't discuss ivermectin in any detail.
Oh, okay. You're gonna have to bleep out that word.
That's what the policy is.
That is a good way to frame it. Actually, stop. Like, let this hunk give him his self-determination when it comes to making a deal with Russia. Of course, you got to take that self-determination away, or respond differently when it's if he's calling for a no-fly zone. And I know these are very serious things, and I don't mean to be glib. I mean, I am being glib because it's better to laugh instead of cry. And when we are facing a potential World War III, you gotta do something to stay sane and find some kind of respite. But I mean, obviously, these are serious issues, and I think that people are kind of obsessed with pop psychology when it comes to Putin, and they're obsessed with pop culture when it comes to Zelensky. And I do think that whatever we have to do to reach people so that the priority is not diagnosing Putin or fantasizing about Zelensky, but the priority is actually a negotiation, diplomacy, so that this can end.
Yep.
For the sake of everyone, for the sake of Ukrainians, for the sake of Russians. Of course, it doesn't help, the United States citizens to not have nice things because they're funding an endless proxy war. And we see that, the more money is going to the Pentagon than ever, and this is just a really scary solution. And we need to be, instead of engaging in this kind of like mass psychosis and neo-McCarthyism and getting rid of Russian dressing and taking away scholarships or concerts that are Tchaikovsky. I mean, even when the concerts are performed by musicians who are anti-Putin, it's just really embarrassing, and people need to snap out of it.
Yeah.
So
it can be, I think, dangerous to overly idolize any political figure, even one who's, who I mostly agree with at a certain point in time, because who knows how that will shake out later. Does that provide a cover? But the media just does that relentlessly. Like, they cannot help but compress complicated figures and situations into easy hero-villain narratives, and we saw how awry that went with both Avenatti and Cuomo, and I certainly hope that doesn't happen with Zelensky, but it's a textbook kind of thing that happens.
Right, and just because someone's cute, that doesn't make calling for a no-fly zone cute.
Yeah, and Katie, that's an interesting point, because we don't really have a framework for dealing with this as the media, because Zelensky really is literally a network-level talent. Netflix is putting his show on their network. He is a serious and accomplished performer and comedian, and the world stage has never really experienced something like that, where you have basically, and I forget who described it this way, but you have a TV production studio who's kind of running the counter-war effort here, and that does shape how the world thinks about the war, which can be healthy or can be unhealthy. Because if we're now at a place where polls are saying that 35% of Americans want to take more military action, even if it risks a nuclear war, it's like, okay, we might need to dial this back a little bit. So what is a framework for the media to understand how to grapple with leaders who are, because I think he's not he's not the first, but he's definitely not going to be the last kind of network level star that is going to convert into a world leader.
Well, in a way, we had that with Trump. I mean, a different kind of star, right? But it is true that we have to be able to have look at policies and positions and not personality. I mean, in some ways, it's human nature, but there's a difference between being in theory, you'd want the media to be able to overcome that kind of human nature of focusing on personality over policy. And it actually is media malpractice to focus on personality over policy, because that can get you into very scary places. And it is their job to be keeping people kind of like informed. And watching, as we pointed out in this segment, I mean, watching the media talk about no-fly zones as if they're this reasonable policy route and something that the Biden administration or the Pentagon, the State Department is being kind of like ridiculous and not embracing is very scary. I mean, I don't understand how the Fourth Estate can do this unless they believe in like human extinction.
Yeah, apparently they don't. It's weird. It's very weird. Katie, thanks so much for joining us as always.
Thanks.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.